It's vibe. And this one goes out to all my ladies. I be chasing cats with nice cars. You know, wheel watchers. We're riding to. I'll be obliged if you stepped outside, cause my ride is awaiting. The truck look like a spaceship and the grill is mean-faced it. Hand I painted it, smoke gray, that player shit. 7 clear coats keep the whip wet like rain drips. Inside the interior is stainless, leather so soft it's like I almost feel ashamed of it. Damn it, if you rollin' with the main here, you love this whip, in fact that's why you came here. You ain't a car connoisseur, you a car kind whore. I know your type well, that's why I pay so much for. From the rims to the floorboard, engine was a V8 and so I added 4 more. Boy, these chicks ain't seen nothing like this. Once inside, I got them to weighing like they sidekicks. I guess the world may never know how a car can get you so much choach. Whoa, oh.
Do you want me for myself or do you want me just because my car, my car, my car, my car? Do you think that I am the one or do you just wanna ride shotgun in my car, my car, my car, my car?
I see you looking at the way the rims fit the wheel well, and how the meat on that tire is just barely there. Plus, she impressed by that dual exhaust. That's why I'm doing up before I pull off. Look, nah, you can't drive. It's best that you just sit there and ride. Know that dash like a cockpit, and when it lights up, you'll be coming off that quick. You really love it, don't you? You'll tell your girlfriends, won't you? Don't lie, you know you wanna slide. Your hand up and down on my stick, even though I drive an automatic. This, it's ridiculous how you put your lips on this. Girl, don't put your feet up on the dash, my car gets ticklish.
Do you want me for myself or do you want me just because my car, my car, my car, my car? Do you think that I am the one or do you just wanna ride shotgun in my car, my car, my car, my car? Cause my car, I know you want me for my car. Girl, I'm no fool. See your face when I pulled up. You told,
yo, my big body is my main squeeze. V12 triple black and I love the way she changed lanes. My side chick is my 7:15. Fell in love with her the moment I met her. Oh, yeah, I can't forget about my Cajun thing. Cayenne, she so fast, I only catch her once a week, man. Miss Range pull me up the chicks when we out, but she so classy, I can't threesome her out. Look, now you know I keep a vet up on the team. My 7-1 Chevelle, man, I call her Maybelline. Apologizing to the one that held me down from the start. My Ford Escort, I broke her heart. Hey, we was straight, but when my paper got good, a nigga kept chasing new hood. If I could tell you about my little Italian piece, Maserati, she stays topless when my days is sunny. Look, I'm a man, so I flirt with Humvees, but when I need space, I call ESV. So I don't mind spending dough on these broads, cause I owe a lot of that I got to my car.
Do you want me for myself or do you want me just because my car, my car, my car, my car? Do you think that I am the one or do you just wanna ride shotgun in my car, my car, my car, my car? Cause my car, I know you want me for my car.
It's a beautiful thing, man. No 400s in here.
See your face when
you live with a roll over anything, man.
You told, oh you
Benzes,
I know you want me
Bentleys,
for my car.
Beamers,
Girl,
anything with a beam. Cadillacs. We'll work our way through the alphabet.
You told,
I see you winking at the sky, girl. It's vibe. And this one goes out to all my ladies. I be chasing cats with nice cars. You know, wheel watchers. We're riding to. I'll be obliged if you stepped outside, cause my ride is awaiting. The truck look like a spaceship and the grill is mean-faced it. Hand I painted it, smoke gray, that player shit. 7 clear coats keep the whip wet like rain drips. Inside the interior is stainless leather, so soft it's like I almost feel ashamed of it. Damn it, if you rollin' with the main here, you love this whip. In fact, that's why you came here. You ain't a car connoisseur, you a car kind whore. I know your type well, that's why I pay so much for. From the rims to the floorboard, engine was a V8, and so I added 4 more. Boy, these chicks ain't seen nothing like this. Once inside, I got them to weighing like they sidekicks. I guess the world may never know how a car can get you so much choach. Whoa, oh.
Do you want me for myself, or do you want me just because my car, my car, my car, my car? Do you think that I am the one, or do you just wanna ride shotgun in my car, my car, my car, my car?
I see you looking at the way the rims fit the wheel well, and how the meat on that tire is just barely there. Plus, she impressed by that dual exhaust. That's why I'm doing up before I pull off. Look, no, you can't drive. It's best that you just sit there and ride. Know that dash is like a cockpit, and when it lights up, you'll be coming off that quick. You really love it, don't you? You'll tell your girlfriends, won't you? Don't lie, you know you wanna slide your hand up and down on my stick, even though I drive an automatic. This is ridiculous, how you put your lips on this. Girl, don't put your feet up on the dash, my car gets ticklish.
Do you want me for myself, or do you want me just because my car, my car, my car, my car? Do you think that I am the one, or do you just wanna ride shotgun in my car, my car, my car, my car? 'Cause my car, I know you want me for my car. Girl, I'm no fool. See your face when I pulled up. You told,
yo, my big body is my main squeeze. V12 triple black, and I love the way she changed lanes. My side chick is my 7:15. Fell in love with her the moment I met her. Oh, yeah, I can't forget about my Cajun thing. Cayenne, she so fast, I only catch her once a week, man. Miss Range pull me up the chicks when we out, but she so classy, I can't threesome her out. Look, now you know I keep a vet up on the team. My 7-1 Chevelle, man, I call her Maybelline. Apologizing to the one that held me down from the start. My Ford Escort, I broke her heart. Hey, we was straight, but when my paper got good, a nigga kept chasing new hood. If I could tell you about my little Italian piece, Maserati, she stays topless when my days is sunny. Look, I'm a man, so I flirt with Humvees, but when I need space, I call ESVs. So I don't mind spending dough on these broads, 'cause I owe a lot of that I got to my cars.
do you want me for myself, or do you want me just because my car, my car, my car, my car? Do you think that I am the one, or do you just wanna ride shotgun in my car, my car, my car, my car? 'Cause my car, I know you want me for my car.
It's a beautiful thing, man.
No
400s in here.
see your face when
You
you
liable to roll over anything, man.
You told, oh you,
Benzes,
I know you want me
Bentleys,
for my car.
Beamers,
Girl,
anything with a beam.
see your
Cadillacs.
face when I
We'll work our way through the alphabet.
You told,
I see you winking at this car, girl. Oh, it's Vi. And this one goes out to all my ladies. I be chasing cats with nice cars. You know, wheel watchers. We're riding to. I'll be obliged if you stepped outside, 'cause my ride is awaiting. The truck look like a spaceship and the grill is mean-faced it. Hand I painted it, smoke gray, that player shit. 7 clear coats keep the whip wet like rain drips. Inside the interior is stainless leather, so soft it's like I almost feel ashamed of it. Damn it, if you rollin' with the main here, you love this whip. In fact, that's why you came here. You ain't a car connoisseur, you a car kind whore. I know your type well, that's why I pay so much for. From the rims to the floorboard, engine was a V8, and so I added 4 more. Boy, these chicks ain't seen nothing like this. Once inside, I got them to weigh in like they sidekicks. I guess the world may.
Good evening and welcome to the Championship Review. We are on match day 2 of the Championship weekend. We've got loads to talk about, some interesting results. Well, we had a good weekend eventually, no doubt about that. But we have got some guests joining us as well. Joining us, you have probably had the best weekend as a Robinson after they draw against Hull City last weekend. But we'll talk about it shortly. But good evening, Annie. How you doing?
Evening, Carl. I'm great. I'm buzzing.
You buzzing, I know. I saw it in the group chat last night. You were buzzing so much, man. Compared to myself being a Leeds fan, we'll talk more about that later on anyway. So, yeah, we'll talk about that later on. And another guest is joining us who's must be excited as well. 2 wins from 2 is, this first 2 games. It's Michael. Michael, evening.
If you were calling Annie very happy, then what were you calling me?
Very ecstatic, I would say. So
yeah, well, that is very true. Well, you probably had me and Annie just what's the word I'm looking for? Fanboying over our teams over the weekend. So yeah, I won't repeat the full language I used in the group chat, but I'm not doing too badly. How are you doing?
I'm not bad, thank you. Well, personal fine, general depends on how you if you want to talk about Leeds.
Away from Leeds United, how are you doing?
I'm good. Look, it's been a while. I've been trying to get back onto streaming for a while, and I had some personal stuff I needed to deal with, but things have been a lot more better because I'm now in sorting things out. So I'm more better than I have been than I was a few months ago. So that's probably the happiest thing. That's all I care about anyway. So yeah.
And your mood's about to be ruined because now we're going to talk about football, I presume.
Yes, we bloody are going to do that. No doubt about that one. I'm going to see where I'm going to start with. Actually, I know if we had Ant on here, he would have wanted to talk about Coventry. But let's start with Coventry. Friday night, it was an exciting game, Michael. I'm not going to lie. Oxford could have gone away with a draw, but had you right snatched the winner. They get their first 3 points of the season for Sky Blues.
I watched most of the game, and yeah, you're right. I thought it was a very enthralling game. I know a lot of people were talking about the Premier League being back, but I was personally more interested in this one because I was going, well, Man United playing Fulham, probably beating them. Couldn't care less. Whereas I think you can tell we've been out of the Premier League for 8 years. God. But no, this game was actually really, really good. I felt Oxford battled really, really well. But in the end, personally, I think the result was about right. I think Coventry were knocking on the door. I think Oxford's second goal is quite funny, unless it happens against your team.
Yeah.
It's really, really frustrating from a Coventry fan's perspective. But for Coventry to keep plugging away, and eventually get the rewards, I felt their dominance and pressure deserved. It's quite good for them. I think that the main thing for Coventry is, and we've kind of seen it over the last 2 seasons, and you'll both know what I'm on about, they tend to start slow. And then last season, for example, it cost them towards the end, really, didn't it? Whereas now they have a lot less transfers to do and their players should bed in. But as far as this game went, I think they did deserve the win. But Oxford will take a lot. Like, Coventry away is not an easy fixture. So I would say for Oxford that their home form, I think, is what's going to probably define if they stay up or not for me. But now from Coventry, good to respond after the defeat at Stoke last week.
Absolutely. Annie, we thought Oxford United would come in quite well, started quite well last weekend against Norwich. It was a bit disappointing not to take the point away from Coventry from Coventry this past weekend.
I think if you're an Oxford fan and you're coming away from that game disappointed, it's a good thing because as Michael said, Coventry away is a really difficult place to go, especially this season, with considering the fact that they've got quality in that team. They've had made a few little tweaks, but generally it's the same team that played very well last season, and they'll be hoping for a faster start than they had last season as well. But yeah, Oxford, I think if you'd offered them 3 points from Norwich at home, who finished in the playoffs last season, and Coventry away, who are very good side, they'd have taken it. So I don't think it's a. Even though the way they lost the game at Oxford with the Will Volks, I can't speak. Will
Will Volk.
Volks,
Try saying
Will
that 5 times
Volks,
quickly.
Will Volks, um, giving away the ball really cheaply. It was a bit of a disappointing way to lose it, but they can take a lot of heart from it. They're clearly a very good side going forward, even without Josh Murphy. So a lot of positives, I'd say, from an Oxford perspective. Coventry just showing their quality, which they've got up front. Like I said, Ellis Sims, Haji Wright, Sakamoto, Mason Clark, Casey Palmer. Even without Calmo O'Hare on that side, they've got Jack Rodoni. They've got really good players. So yeah, a bit frustrating from an Oxford perspective, considering the manner and the timing of the goal. But it's championship for you. It's ruthless. It's brutal. You're gonna have to be at it for 96 to 7 minutes. So better they do it now than when it actually matters later in the season.
Absolutely. And everyone, please comment in. If you was at any of the games this week, comment in, say hello to us. We appreciate that as well. I have to admit, I did watch this because I was watching my United game. I don't know why, though. As a Leeds fan, I just wanted to see my United to lose. But to be
Traitor.
honest with you, I think I missed the game Friday night. With Coventry and Oxford, it was the most exciting game. I should have watched that. It had more flair than bloody Man United taking its time. Bloody hell. Yeah, I'm not going to lie with that one. Right, let's go to one of the other games. I'm going to start off with, it's interesting which way I'm going to go with. I'm going to start, it could not get any lower for Preston North End since it sat Ryan Lowe. 3-0 down. How did the Swans just outplayed him so much, and you can see the issues that's going on at Deepdale. When you leave after one game on after Friday night, it just says you the lack of what progress for Preston after Lowe's been with them for 3 seasons.
It's just what they're doing. What they're doing. What the board of Preston doing. What's Trisdale doing. It's just
Don't mention that
confusing.
name. He's on my shit list. So just remember, as a Leeds fan, he's on my shit. He's always been on my shit list. So
Considering you go into the season with a manager who's been there for a while, you make additions to the squad, a couple of players from abroad. They signed someone the day before the Sheffield United game, I'm sure. Jeppe Yuckels, I think his name was, a winger. They signed him before the Sheffield United game, played the Sheffield United game, lost, and then Ryan Lowe didn't get sacked. He left. He said you can read between the lines and you can tell that he didn't want to be there anymore. It was you don't sack a manager after one game, especially not after losing at home to a side who's just been relegated from the Premier League. That's just ludicrous, no matter how badly you've played. So he's clearly resigned and told something's happened, massive fallout probably. And then to make things worse, you go away to Swansea, who didn't start well on opening day either. They lost away at Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
And it was like watching a Premier League side playing a Championship side or a Championship side playing a League One side. Then they're not that far apart in quality. I'd say I had Swansea a little bit higher than Preston at the start of the season, but it doesn't mean they're too far away in quality. To get absolutely dismantled by Swansea, it's just not acceptable. Especially for Ryan Lowe's side, who under Ryan Lowe have been stoic, defensively solid. It's incomprehensible. They have to get this next appointment bang on, because if they don't, they're in massive trouble. They're in massive trouble because that squad is built for Ryan Lowe. That squad has been built by Ryan Lowe. So if they go and hire someone trendy and try and just completely switch things up, I'm getting Millwall vibes from last season where they hired Joe Edwards in the middle of it, and then that won't end well. So they have to get this next appointment right. It's a really, really, really chaotic, really bad start, but it's only 2 games into the season. They've got to get the next appointment right. I know what you guys think, but it smells bad.
Yeah, Michael.
The problem, as Annie said, is that if they've got a squad built for Ryan Lowe's style of football, and then you try to be the trendy name, like as Annie mentioned, Millwall last season, Millwall nearly got relegated, and really they saved themselves because they brought in someone who is well adapted to the way that they play, which Neil Harris and Gary Rowett, they're not too dissimilar in what their styles at Millwall. So it depends on what Preston do. I think obviously it depends on Preston get a pretty decent crowd at their games. So what I would say is that Preston seem to need someone who has a good connection and is good at building relationships with club and the fans, because Ryan Lowe, from what I can gather from an outside perspective, didn't seem to be someone who was good at that sort of thing, or people skills didn't seem to be particularly great. Obviously, he did something all right in the fact that he'd been at Preston for, 3 seasons, I think, or 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was. I think it was December 2021 or something, or November 21 he was appointed.
It was,
or
yeah.
at some point in the 21-22 season. So I would say that, look, I mean, this particular game, I mean, Swansea, it's a game that really Preston probably had a realistic chance of getting something from, whereas I never, like Andy, I think you said as well, against Sheffield United, with the quality they've got, they're a team that's just been in the Premier League. They'll come down, they have a superior squad, and I think that would pay dividends in a game like that. Whereas Swansea, okay, yeah, I think losing in that manner is pretty worrying. And I think like that, this next appointment, as you said, they have to get spot on, because if they don't get it spot on, you've seen it with plenty of times with clubs in the Championship or in any division. If you get the appointment wrong, then slide. That could genuinely happen. And it seems to me like the Preston fans, and particularly with the club, their relationship seems, because of Ryan Lowe's lack of people skills, or seeming lack of people skills, then actually animosity could build. And when toxicity builds as a club, as you both know, it's very, very difficult to thrive in those circumstances. Not impossible. Danny Rowell at Sheffield Wednesday, despite today, has proven that across his tenure there. But it's harder than it looks. So they do need to get it right. I mean, obviously, look, they got the win in midweek against our second string side, but that was our second string side. I think our first string side beats them. But at the end of the day, yeah, they need to get it right. It's a big, big period coming up for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, just to interrupt, but also good for Swansea perspective, by the way, to get off after a defeated Borough. We have to mention that.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. I think they had more possession last week against Middlesbrough, despite the lost 1-0. But to come with emphatically with that highlight performance, yeah, you could forgive them for that, because they're going against one of the challenges for the top half of the table, and actually they had chances, but but they had more better chances this past weekend. So.
They're a good side under Luke Williams. Like they're very well coached.
Yeah,
absolutely. You can see the patterns like of play coming in, similar to what Williams had at Notts. They're a good side. They've got good quality. They've added well, but unknown in the summer. Majority of players have either not really played football. I'm thinking Lawrence Vigouroux, and then either players that have come from Europe, mainland Europe. So I think it might take a bit of time, and playing Preston at that point might have been a good thing. But yeah, good for them to get off the mark. That's not the Liberty anymore; it's the Swansea.com stadium. So yeah, it's nice to start off with a win at home as well. So yeah, I'm sure they'll be a decent side this season.
I think they will do as well. I think they will do. Let's go to one of the top favourites, probably for the Championship. Burnley winning 5-0 after that back-to-back win for the Cavs. After that whole howler, how have Nathan's not here, so if he was here, he'd have to explain, really why, how kind of lose that so badly. But for Burnley, Michael, it looks like they already have. Well, I know it's not 10 games yet. You already made the decision, but they just started running for them.
Thanks very much. We play Burnley next week, so I'm crapping myself. That's going to be fun. It is at home, though, so we might have half a chance of getting not bad. But to be fair, right, yeah, from Burnley's point of view, this is the type of game you need to be winning. Yeah, you don't have a God-given right to win any game, but if you're wanting to get promoted, games like that, you need to be getting 3 points in, really. Couple of goals were screamers, and obviously I think there was a Cardiff goalkeeper's mistake for one of the goals. I believe.
Horvath, yeah.
I thought there was. Yeah. I thought there was, which Andy's not going to enjoy whatsoever. From Cardiff's point of view, I wouldn't take too much into a game like this, because I think they've lost to what I consider to be two good sides. I do class us as a good side in the first game, but they're at home. They would have been disappointed to lose that. But particularly this game, I don't think there's much bearing on this. I think Cardiff plays Swansea next week. Is that right?
Yeah.
South Wales derby. So that's the sort of game that, obviously for pride, but also for realism in terms of chance to get points, that they'll be targeting to get something out of. Put it this way, I think Cardiff fans would, if you had to lose one and win one, I think they'd rather lose this game heavily and win next week. But regardless, yes, I think from Burnley's point of view, I think it seems to me like, and I don't know if either of you have seen the clip, I haven't seen any of the Mission to Burnley or whatever it is?
Burnley. I've watched a bit of the first season, but I did see the clip this past
The
week.
controversial clip with Vincent Kompany, yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I bring that up is because if it could suggest to me that last season there might have been relationship strains behind the scenes.
There was. I think it was Good Johnson who actually whose contract was expired, and then they brought him back before the first game against Luton.
Because Kompany had gone to Bayern, yeah. But that's what I mean. So maybe Burnley's board have played a blinder there. Maybe it's that they've got money for someone that maybe some of the players wanted rid of, and then they brought someone in who seems to be good for confidence. So, like, look, I wasn't overly convinced when Scott Parker got appointed, but I can't ignore it. He's got 2 promotions from this league, simple as that. So he obviously is good. He's good enough to get jobs with parachute 1 year payment, year 1 parachute clubs. But yeah, no, for Burnley, 2 wins, cracking start. I think they've scored 9 goals in their first 2 games. Yeah. And one of them being 4 away at a club that finished above them in the Premier League last year. So, and really, I think Luton's squad is more or less the same, apart from Ross Barkley, I think.
Yes.
Shandon Baptiste obviously came in, but I think Burnley, they've got a lot of confidence, and it seems like they might have their swagger back. So yeah, God help the Championship, I guess, if they keep on like this.
I know. Anything more for Scott Parker or Burnley? They look like they're going to kill teams off. Not easily, but in certain games, they could kill teams off quite easily.
Not next week, please.
No.
They're very ruthless. I think they had 4 shots on target and scored 5 goals. And yeah, the attacking quality they have, even after Wilson Odobert went to Tottenham, is still,
That was surprising, that move. For a price tag like that, yeah. It was under the radar, that one, until the announcement.
It was a little bit. But yeah, they've still got a load of quality for a Championship side, and should be winning most weeks. Started really well, a +8 goal difference is good. I think the only slight teething issue I think is goalkeeping for Burnley, because they've got 3 really good goalkeepers.
Trafford is good.
Yeah, they've got James Trafford, who's obviously been there for a year. They've also got Václav Hladký, who played in this one and made some unbelievable saves. And obviously, he won promotion as Ipswich #1 last season. They've also got Etienne Green, who is very highly rated in Saint Etienne, I think. So yeah, they've got that as a bit of a problem. It's a nice problem to have. But yeah, they just look so squad. They just look so good throughout their squad.
They bloody do, I know. I wish a certain team had that at the moment, which we'll discuss later on. And I know there's going to be a bit of dispute about one player that we've been linked with. We'll talk about that later, Michael, so don't worry about that. We get some time with that one.
Who could that be, I wonder?
Oh, God. Addy, let's go to your boys. I have to say, Bristol City, I have to say, Scott Twyke off the bench sitting late with it. This is probably game of the week, actually. I'm going to not lie to you. It was back and forth with yourselves in Millwall.
Wasn't it like 2-0 Bristol City, then 3-2 Millwall, then 4-3?
Yeah.
If you couldn't win a more topsy-turvy game like that, if you tried.
Well, it went for us. 1 point, 3 points, 1 point, 0 points, 1 point, 3 points. It was ludicrous. Yeah, I don't know where to start. Opening 12 minutes, we played like Barcelona, went 2-0 up, couldn't get anywhere near us. I think we had like 90% possession the first 12 minutes, scored twice. Yeah, and it just felt like, Christ, they're not getting anywhere close to us. We might take them apart. The rest of the first half was quiet, relatively. Millwall took a little bit of control back into it, just stemmed the kind of flow of our attacks. Should have scored as well, hit the post, Ryan Leonard. And then second half, it was like Neil Harris had put a rocket up every single one of those Millwall players' backsides. It's ridiculous. They came out fighting. They came out really attacking. Romain Essa was brilliant. He tore Campering, our left back, a new one. He was absolutely magnificent. And yeah, he scored the first goal. And then I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the penalty decision, oh my God. I'm not joking. It hits George Tanner's chest. It doesn't
It
even,
does. Yeah, I did see
I
that.
did
I
see
did
it,
see
yeah.
that. Yeah.
it doesn't, it's not anywhere near his arm. It's not like his arm's up in the air and it hits like underneath his armpit or anything. It's just nowhere near his arm.
I
He
know.
actually, George Tanner actually turns away and goes back to like get ready for the corner he's about to defend and doesn't even like acknowledge the penalty shouts from the Millwall players. And then the referee's given it, and he looks at the referee like he's seen a ghost. But then Tom Bradshaw scores, and then it's a long throw in, and it's just very Millwall.
It
The
is
third
very,
goal.
very Millwall because I like to do the set pieces quite well, don't they? So
Yeah, it's very Millwall. And then all of this happens in like within 20 minutes. So basically, they have a 20-minute spell at the start of the first half where they score 3 goals. I've seen people kind of a little bit, complain about our defending. I mean, every time a team has a 20-minute spell, they aren't going to score 3 goals. So it's a bit of an outlier. But again, we aren't going to score 4 goals every game. So they
no,
can't have it both ways.
no.
But then Duncan Watmore actually scores a nice goal from that throw in.
Great volley, to be fair. Yeah.
It's a very nice cushion volley. And then Scott Twine and Fally Mayulu, Scott Twine for his second debut at City, and Fally Mayulu, who, boy, looks a player. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that finish at Hull last week where he.
Yeah, it was a really
did.
good finish. I loved it, actually. I think he's going to be one of your key players this season.
Well, that's a very interesting point because we have a very large ongoing debate over whether it's Sinclair Armstrong, who himself has looked outrageously good going forward for City, or Fally Mayulu starting up front. But we'll find out, I suppose. He scores a ludicrously well worked goal that starts at centre back. Starts with the goalkeeper, goes into centre back, and goes into Rob Dickey on the halfway line. He gives it to Zach Viner on the right hand side, sends it down the line to Max Bird, who then plays a 1-2, ridiculous 1-2 with Fally Mayulu, who then gets the ball back and whips that ball beautifully, just caresses it into the far corner. It's magical. And then it's 3-3. And then Millwall make a strange double substitution where they take off their best attacking player in place for a right back, and then move their right back, who started the game, who actually played quite well, into central midfield, and then their new right back gets skinned for our 4th goal. So thanks, Neil Harris. Then the ball goes to Williams, who puts the ball in, and Scott Twine's there to kind of finish. We look really good going forward. That's because we've got a plethora of options. It's almost as if you sign new players going for in the attacking regions, they become better, better at scoring goals. Very, very happy with how we started. We should have won at Hull because we were the better side, and it was a late penalty from Hull as well. So look, I'm very happy with how we started. It should be 6 points. It's only 4. Still a good return. Still a very good return. And we've got Coventry next week, and then Derby away, and then that's the international break, isn't it? So if we can bank another 4 points, it's a lovely start, and hopefully the momentum just keeps going because we've still got players to come back from injury who will hopefully, touch wood, have an impact on this side.
Absolutely. What's your expectations for Bristol City this season? Is it really trying for the top half of the table to challenge to get into the last place of the playoffs, the last 2 places of the playoffs?
Or is it to walk the league?
Well, we have a better squad than Burnley, so we should walk the
Agent Twine.
I said we'd be 8th, which is an improvement on last season, but I just felt like the quality around us, as well as Coventry and Middlesbrough, who I said would have really good seasons, would kind of be our unraveling. But I think for pushing for the playoffs, I think when people kind of look at dark horses, they just kind of scan down the list and just go, okay, who's a team that's not really done anything in too many years? All right, Bristol City. right, you've got a nice, flashy new manager. You'll probably climb a few places. Let's put you sixth because there's no logical reasoning to it. I've got us pretty close to the playoffs because we've got a really good squad. Like, genuinely have a really good squad. It's a good blend, maybe lacking a little bit of experience, but going forward, we've got some excellent attacking players now that we've added to them in the window compared to last season where it was pretty abysmal, borderline pathetic. We've got rid of Tommy Conway. Well, we've sold Tommy Conway to Middlesbrough. Thanks for the $4.5 million. He's not very good. That's a joke. He's quite good, but I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
In the circumstances, you're better off having the money. Yeah.
But we've in my honest opinion, we've upgraded on a single Tommy Conway to Armstrong and Mayulu, both of them together, who are first team players. I think we've done really well to get $4.5 million and then spend that money very well to replace him. And then we've got Scott Twine, who's come back, and he's just a little magician. He'll get on the ball and he'll create things out of nothing. Quality player at this level. And then in midfield, I'd say we've got one of the best midfield trios outside of the top four. Outside the parachute teams, we've got really good quality in there. Max Bird, Jason Knight, Joe Williams, just unbelievably good championship players. And a manager who and a fourth best defence from last season. So we've got. I'm not getting excited, but we've got some really good foundations to go and, hopefully pull out a bit of a dark horse. But yeah, I think we can do. Think we can do really well this season. And what really well is, push for the playoffs. Getting in the playoffs would be brilliant. Missing out on the playoffs would be heartbreaking, but also fantastic because it shows real progress. So, yeah, I think to answer your question, stop the waffle. We're just missing out on the playoffs.
We'll see. Comes in around end of May, then that'll be interesting. Well, by the end of May, we'll see. Then, yeah, that's will be interested. Right, where next do I go to? Because I'm just got to put one more banner because I forgot to do this because I know we'll talk about Michael's team shortly because I have been busy trying to get everything prepared. So
yeah, I thought you were doing this because you thought, I really don't want to talk about Leeds. Can we just talk about everybody but them?
That's some point later, so don't worry about that. It's a little bit later on anyway. Let's go to another team that started well as well. Let Watford 2 wins on the bath under Tom Cleverley. Carambe scored twice and their 100% start to this season as well, Michael. Did Stoke just look really bad from what we've seen, or was just Watford just too good?
I think it's hard for me to gauge totally because all I've seen is the EFL highlight show, so I've just seen
We all have done. So.
Probably about 90 seconds worth of highlights. I did like the one thing I did like was one of the commentators did the post-match commentary basically where you just talk over the highlights. They said something like Victor Johansson must hate playing at Rotherham because he conceded 5 there with Rotherham last year and then he's conceded another 3 this year. So he'll be quite glad he doesn't have to go to Vicarage Road again in the league. But, from what the bits I did see, it looked like Watford were dominant, but I don't know that for sure. And for Stoke, I think it seemed to me, I think it was 0-0 half time this game, I believe. And I think that from what I did see, it sounded like that Watford's just relentless pressure. But again, I don't know. This just seems to be like 90 seconds worth of highlights. But good stuff for Watford. And there were quite a few people, I think, like second tier pod, not the top 20 pod, both predicted them to go down. I didn't think they would be quite that bad. I know there's obviously off the pitch issues, but they've had a really, really good start. And I think if their expectation is mainly just to make sure they consolidate, then it's a good start. The sooner you get off to a good start, the more points you got on the board, the better. Actually, just looking at the stats, it seemed very dominant. Watford's shots was 24 to Stokes 7. Shots on target was 8 to Stokes 3. Off target 9 to Stokes 3. So yeah, and obviously the rest. Block shots, 7 for Watford, 1 for Stoke. So that seems to me obviously a cracking day at the office for Watford. And obviously, so they do score goals. They got a bit fortunate in Millwall with some of the goals that went in for them, but nothing fortunate about the goals that they scored yesterday for the most part. And so there is still issues off the pitch, but on it, Watford can't ask for much more than that. No. And they've scored 6 goals in the first 2 games.
Absolutely, as well. Actually, yeah, definitely a very good start. What about for Stokes' situation? We know they've had the Colts family have changed the ownership. Well, changed it to from Peter Coates to his son. It's just like Stoke can never even. What is Stoke's ambitions for this year? We always talk about Stoke abilities that could, been mid-table or relegation. No one knows with this team now at the moment, especially since they've been out of the Premier League since 2018.
Am I right in thinking they never once finished in the top half since they've got to the Championship from the Prem?
It's
Probably
always
not.
been
Yeah,
14th
probably.
to 17th where they finish.
Yeah, something like that. And the only reason they didn't get 16th last year was because we stole it off them. In general, with Stoke, like that's not good enough for them. Like, surely there's at some point. I mean, me and Annie, I remember we had a conversation about Stoke at the end of last year, and we kept on going. Something eventually has to click at Stoke, but I don't know what it is that just doesn't seem to be working. Because I think the closest they've had to stability is when Michael O'Neill was there, and I think he was there for about 2.5 years, or
About 2.5, yeah, two to two
or
and a
two
half
and a
years.
bit years, yeah.
Yeah,
But then since then, obviously had Alex Neil, which didn't work out, which I'm not complaining about at all. And then they had obviously Steven Schumacher. But I wonder if they're going to get into a cycle where a manager comes in mid-season, keeps them up, then has what seems to be a decent window, then starts poorly, gets sacked. Next person comes in and repeats the cycle. I don't know whether eventually that is going to keep on happening over and over again, but at some point, Stoke surely have to start climbing the division. It might have just been Stoke might have just had a bad day. I don't know. You'll have to wait and see what happens in their coming games, but surely at some point, for Stoke to have not once finished even in the top half since they've dropped into the Championship is not good enough for them, really. Considering that they were in the Prem for 10 years before then, I believe.
yeah. You tend to forget they've been in the Premier for that long. You think it was just a lot shorter, but yeah, I didn't realize it was that. It's nearly about 10 years they were in the Premier League
Mad,
for.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's mad. It's absolute mad as well. It really is. Let's go to Derby's win against Middlesbrough. Kenny Jackson Ice Cube finished Rams the first championship win of the season. Harry, that I don't know if you saw the game, but the dreadful pass from Isaiah Jones, to just and then back pass. Jackson had the whole field, half the field for himself to get that winner.
I can only describe this Derby win in one phrase. It is so poor Warne. It is so poor Warne.
Yeah,
They capitalise on a mistake from Isaiah Jones, normally a very decent championship player. Kane Jackson has got the whole half of Pride Park, literally free to himself. Puts in the net. It's a simple finish for him. And then it's bombardment from Middlesbrough in terms of chances. Josh Vickers has a good game. If Derby lose that game 2-1, you're all going. We're all sitting here going, oh, why did you sit back at 1-0? Borough rattled. But then now because they've won 1-0 and kept a clean sheet, we're all going, oh, lovely grit, resilience, battle. But it's
especially with Middlesbrough had majority of possession, nearly 71 possession, and had 20 shots and 4 on target, and compared to Derby's 3, and they had 2 shots on target. You thinking that should have been Derby should have just lost that game, but
I mean, look, they do have a relatively. I mean, I think Evan Cashin and Kane Wilson both went off in the game. Who were two very good two of their better players in that team. So yeah, it was a bit of a weird one from a Derby perspective, but again, similar to kind of what I said about Oxford. If you'd said Blackburn away and Middlesbrough at home, you said 3 points, I'm sure Derby fans would have taken it. And winning at Pride Park as well is massively important because that place is going to be so crucial to Derby because in the way Paul Warne plays, I'm not sure away from home is going to be their richest avenue of points. So Pride Park, those fans, that atmosphere is going to be crucial. So to give them a win is massively important, and I'm sure it would be massively pleasing for Paul Warne. For Borough,
I know, Michael.
A bit of a weird one.
Yeah, I know. Michael, do you think Derby can still, if Paul Walker could see that? We know his past experiences at Rotherham was mixed, but can he do it with Derby this time?
He needs to, because at Derby there's higher expectations than there is at Rotherham, because I know people don't like size, people going about size of the clubs, but it's relevant in this case. Like Derby should have better resources, have a bigger fan base, have historically been at the Championship level more recently, more consistently, I should say, than Rotherham. I think it's the last 3 times he's been in this league with Rotherham, he's got straight back down, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So for himself, he needs to prove he can do it. Can they do it? Yes. I'm not as sure based on what transfer business they've done that they will, but and you've got to bear in mind, to be fair, that Borough miss chances that on another day they score, but that doesn't matter. From Derby's point of view, just the scoreline's what matters, and I think they probably need to. I mean, it depends what points tally you need to stay up. I think they probably need to aim for about 50 points, maybe just above that. So what's that, like 17 wins or something out of 46? Yeah, their home form is going to be absolutely essential for them if they're going to have a chance of staying up. They can do, whether they will, I don't know.
I was thinking the aim, because I don't know how close it's going to be. I think it would be less than the 50 points that you think. I think it's probably at least 45 is the maximum.
Definitely,
yeah. I think that's where some of the certain teams we're going to talk about in the Bay, such as like Plymouth, you do have that question of thinking what is going to be the points of staying up is going to be the key, the key battle with that one, with those teams in the bottom. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Really is. Right. Let's get onto one of the draw games. Let's start at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United, have now 2 points, Michael. But they drew. But like I said, Lyndon Dykes got the equaliser for QPR when they're down to 10 men. Very surprising. They were 2-0 down QPR, and they got the draw. Do you think Sheffield United wasted that opportunity? Just when they were they started well against Preston last weekend, but to get a draw against QPR, was this a fair result, or do you think Sheffield United Chris Alden would be annoyed of not getting those points?
As far as it's a fair result, I'm not sure, but I would say that QPR are obviously going to be really, really happy with that. I think your point at Bramall Lane for a lot of teams will be a good point in the Championship, but from Sheffield United's point of view, you've got to see that out though. You're 2-0 up. Even though you end up conceding, you're 2-1 up, they go down to 10 men, Jack Colback gets sent off. And from that point of view, to concede, it's just kind of naivety, really. It's just not managing the game. And look, it doesn't happen very often. And to be fair to Lyndon Dykes, he equalises a very, very good finish, but you've still got to manage the game better. And I think Sheffield United, I'd imagine, would have ambitions of at least getting into the playoffs. Now, to be fair, they've started all right. 4 points from the first 2 games is okay. But I think in that situation,
when they don't have that points deduction as well after the financial regularities. So
so they're on 2 points now.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's early days. I mean, they'll probably be 1 or 2 points off the playoffs. The table doesn't really start to form until probably a quarter of the season into it, really.
Yeah.
But either way, like Sheffield United, I think that's definitely 2 points drop for them. For QPR, it's a really big response after losing to West Brom last week. But yeah, you've got to be seeing that out of your Sheffield United, really. It's 2 points drop for them hugely.
Absolutely. And can Queens Outrageous be the dark horses as expected to be under Marty Cafretes, who's been talked about quite a bit in the top half, to be challenging the top half? Can they really do it, or do you see another season where it's just mid-table for them to just stability of slow progress?
Well, I think after the last 2 seasons, QPR fans will take mid-table and just away from relegation, I think is probably what they're aiming for under Cifuentes. They've got a good squad. They've added well. Karamoko Dembele showed some excellent. I think he got the assist, didn't he, for Lyndon Dykes' goal?
Do you know what? Before I started to Joe, he was. I thought he was going to be good at Celtic the way he was coming up when I first heard his name, but it just went bits downhill for him a bit. At least he's now redeemed himself for a good team like QPR for playing for the Scottish champions. So it's tough.
Yeah, he looks promising. He had a great season at Blackpool last season, didn't he? So yeah, that natural progression to Championship is good for him, and he looks good. United, yeah, it's very unlike Chris Wilder. Even at 2-1, you have to see the game out. I agree with Michael. You just have to see that game out, especially if you want to be a promotion contender. So it's not very good enough. But I'm not sure. I think Wilder said after the game that it was kind of tried to dress up a little bit, and said 4 points and 2 and stuff like that. So it will be interesting to see how they carry on, because I'm sure some of the new signings are still not completely kind of integrated into the system in their team. I think like some of Raksaki and Mark Cooper, players you'd think would be key for Blades this season, still not completely integrated.
Callum O'Hare and Kiefer Moore as well.
Yeah, Callum O'Hare started both games, and Kiefer Moore, I think he started both games, and Kiefer Moore scored.
As well, actually, yeah.
Yeah, Kiefer Moore scored, didn't he, in this one?
Last weekend, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Wilder kind of shapes up with that team, because we know he likes that 5-3-2, but I think he's gone with a back four.
He has. He's gone with back four. He's gone with 4-4-1-1 now, actually. So
yeah, with that number 10,
bit more attacking. Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see how that will go out throughout the season. He's going to rotate into some tough certain games as well.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how he kind of molds all of that together. But it's not. It's a bit of an annoying way to draw that game, but QPR are a decent side. Even with 10 men, they're posed a threat with Dykes and Dembele and just general quality. So yeah, it's not the worst thing to happen in the world.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, indeed. Let's go to the other good game as well at Carrow Road. Yuki Oshanti's late goal denied Norwich a comeback win at Carrow Road at Blackburn. It's a good start to the season, and I have to say Blackburn started so well, even with the sort of Stammy Schmodics to Ipswich this past week. When he played in the game, you don't know what you get from this Blackburn side, because we know John Eustace is. I talked about this last week on by myself about is it his players, or is it the players that the board wants? How do you see this? What's going on at Blackburn under John Eustace's first full season?
I had them to be relegated, but I am a little bit backtracking now.
I back them to stay up. Just saying.
They've started quite well, haven't they? They're scoring goals. 6 they scored against Stockport as well, who were quite good in League One. They're top of the league at the moment. They beat Blackpool 3-0 away from home. So really impressive goal scoring return so far. And yeah, Yuki Ohashi looks really good. His dinked finish against Derby on opening day, where he chipped over the keeper beautifully, and then this diving header was sublime. It was really good at Norwich. So he looks a real threat going forward, and he has a really good kind of attacking return over in Japan as well. So he looks quite good. Norwich is still
adapting
in transition. They're molding.
Yeah,
they're molding, aren't they? And they've still got to sell Johnny Rowe. They've still got to sign some players. They've got work to do. They're probably up there with the Leeds in terms of the number of players they need to bring in before the end of the transfer window, because they've got a few desperate gaps in their squad that they need to address quickly. So it will be interesting to see how Jonas Hoftorp kind of molds that squad by the end of it. But not bad. Draw Blackburn are good at the moment. Norwich just kind of holding them, and yeah. Also, Josh Sargent missed a hell of a lot of chances in this game. And Josh Sargent won't be missing a hell of a lot of chances in most games. So maybe it's a bit of a on another day, Norwich probably win that 3-2 or something. So yeah, again, a bit of an annoying one, but Blackburn are decent at the moment, so it's not a terrible point.
Absolutely, Michael. Especially with Norwich at the moment, the situation with Johnny Rowe, they've sold Gabriel Saha to Galatasaray for more than £20 million. Johannes Hoffer has just got a lot to do with, because especially now Dilly Smith has now relinquished her bit of her control of the club. It's a huge transition for Norwich, especially if they're going to get rid of Johnny Rowe, they need to get some reinforcements before the next 15 so days left in their transfer window.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they're still, as we said, they're still in transition with Thorup's philosophy, way of playing, whatever cliches you want to attach to it. But I mean, obviously, the Johnny Rowe thing, it seems to me like unless he works his backside off to get back into that team, it seems like there's a point of no return for him now after what he did last week.
No.
admittedly, yeah, I think I'd be fuming if one of our players did that. So I think from Norwich point, they've obviously lost Gabriel Sara, who was a big, big blow for them. And Johnny Rowe, look, I think with Johnny Rowe, that if they're going to get anything from him, they get like 10, 12 million. They were the sort of fees I heard that, from the Norwich perspective anyway, that would be enough to get him because he's in the last year of his contract. Although I do believe they have a year's extension on his deal, so I don't know how that would work. So I think they need to get a replacement for him sorted. The problem is they need to replace Sarah, they need to replace Rowe if in the likely event he goes. And it's going to be. I think the big thing they have to do now is keep the likes of Josh Gunn, Boris Sainz, Josh Sargent. They've got to make sure they keep all of these players in there, and I think they will. To be fair, if they sell Rowe, I don't see them selling anyone else unless a stupid money offer comes in. So yeah, they've got to give themselves the best chance to adapt properly across the course of the season. But yeah, it's going to be. I think they'll be busy at Norwich in the next 12 days.
Absolutely, indeed. Right, let's go to the other teams that's challenging for both ends of the table. Plymouth, Michael, do you understand this Wayne Rooney appointment situation? Because they lost last week so embarrassingly to Sheffield Wednesday. Can he actually stay them up? Is this his last chance saloon? And I mentioned this last week. Is this his last chance saloon of trying to have a good job, being a manager? Because it sounds like, if he doesn't keep Plymouth up, there's no chance no club will appoint him.
Do you know what, right? Yeah, this is really a big, big chance for him. The one thing I would say that if you're going to be in defence, I'm not a particularly big fan of this appointment, I'm going to be honest, but I will say, to play devil's advocate, this is the most stable, I think, of circumstances that Rooney will have walked into. Because if you look at what he walked into at Derby, that speaks for itself. And if you look at what happened at Birmingham, I'm not saying Birmingham weren't in a shit show behind the scenes, but they were definitely not. Things weren't 100% right because they just sacked John Eustace, who had a good start with them, so there would have been some discontent there. Now, obviously, I mean, Plymouth ended last season pretty poorly, didn't they, in terms of the form, and they won on the last day, which was what kept them up. I still think if Rooney's there, I think Plymouth get relegated. But you're right. I think Rooney has to make this work for him. I think if Rooney keeps the Plymouth up, there's a bit of credibility back for him. And I think you're right. I think if he doesn't do this, then I think it's certainly in English football, or certainly in the top 2 tiers, he's going to be very, very hard pressed to find a job at this level. And from Plymouth's point of view, I mean, they were 1-0 up in this game. So obviously I know Hull aren't the worst of sides in this league, but that's a game from Plymouth's point of view you'd be needing to win, especially when Hull themselves are probably in a lot of transition, having just lost Savory, Delap, Carvalho, Philogene, Greaves. Yes, okay, they've got money to spend, but they have to have a lot of turnover in one window. So I think this would have been the best time to play Hull, and I think it's probably a missed opportunity in that sense. But they are off the board. Off the mark, sorry, they've got a point on the board, and they probably owed it to their fans for a good performance, by the way, because I watched them last week at Sheffield Wednesday, and they were disgraceful, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday genuinely could have scored 7 or 8 goals, and they wouldn't have flattered them. So they owed it to their fans to put in a performance. Whether they did, I'm not sure, but it's a point on the board. But yeah, I'm just not convinced with the Rooney appointment. But as you said, he's got to make this work if he has a career as a manager.
Absolutely, Annie. If your last name is Rooney or Lampard or Gerrard, if you're an upcoming manager, you're going to get overlooked by the legends who part of the England team. That's just unfair. And like what Michael said, it is a last chance saloon for Rooney, especially now that what happened at Derby. I know he went to DC United for a bit, and yeah, he didn't stay there long. And then look what happened at Birmingham. I don't get this? Even though you were in the English squad, you were one of the top players in the English football of the world. That doesn't mean you're going to be a great manager.
I'm going to give Rooney a bit of a pass of Derby because I think he did reasonably well. But
I think he did as well. Yeah.
But kind of if you believe some of the reports coming out of there, was mainly Liam Rossini doing the coaching, and Rossini then moved on to Hull and did reasonably well there. Birmingham was disastrous, obviously. I don't know what happened at DC United. I didn't follow there, but Birmingham was disastrous. It was a complete shit show. And I agree with Michael in terms of this is probably the most stable kind of conditions he's going to work in, or has worked in so far in his career. So this is the real acid test for Rooney now. This is the real. Has he got it at this level, and can he, against most odds, keep Plymouth in the Championship, who have sold players, still got Morgan Whittaker, which is a massive help, and Ballymumba, And they've added to that into Sissoko and a striker from Slavia Prague, who I can't quite remember his name. They've got some good attacking quality. They need a little bit more in the transfer window, that's for sure. But yeah, I had Plymouth to be relegated, but Rooney may just need a little bit of time to get things going at Argyle, because it's a decent squad. It's good enough to stay in the Championship. It's one of the weakest squads in the Championship, but it's still decent to go and stay up. And if it punches above its weight a little bit, it can do quite well. So it'll be interesting to see what Wayne Rooney can do. I do agree with you there completely. The kind of name attachment and Lampard and Gerrard and people like that who kind of get an unfair criticism just because of what they were and because of a few mistakes they made as an England player. It's unfair, but it's proofs in the pudding now for Rooney. He's got to get this job absolutely right, or I'd agree with both of you. His kind of time in the second tier might be over for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. We will see. I'm ready to make that announcement on here at some point when he does get sacked or whatever. We'll see what happens with that one. Let's go to the last three games. Just so 10-man Luton held up for a point at goal shot at Portsmouth. I have to say it was a weak game, especially if you're Kaminsky, who actually got in 3 minutes got booked for time wasting, and then get sent off for tackling not just one but two players. Michael, how the hell? How has that happened in the space of 3 minutes?
Because he simply thought that when he made the second offence that he thought he was playing WWE instead of football.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It's
Yeah,
the only thing I can think. That was absolutely hilarious when I watched it back. Look, I'm glad that if he was time wasting a lot, I am so glad that a referee had the balls to book someone for it, because that's the only way you're going to stamp it out. I get so frustrated when
possible time wasted last week against us as well. So it was.
I know, well, we know how rubbish the referees are in this league, so no more said
that's
there.
a fair point.
But at least there's not VAR. Brilliant. That's another story. Well, Carl know much more about that than me or any will in recent times. But regardless, yeah, I mean, look, it was just, I don't know what on earth he's thinking there. Thankfully, from his perspective, it didn't cost his team getting something from the game. And I think from Luton's point of view, especially down to 10 men, away at a newly promoted side, like Middlesbrough found out at Derby, like Norwich found out last week at Oxford, it's harder than you think to play away at a team that's just come and got, when you're away from home, I mean, at a team that's just got promoted. And I think from Portsmouth's point of view, I think like what we talked about with Derby with Paul Horne, I think for John Massinho, I think that Fratton Park will be actually a pretty dangerous place for a lot of teams this year. So I think for Luton to go there with 10 men and get a point, I think is a pretty good result in the end in isolation. Obviously, their keeper had an eventful afternoon. I didn't realise when I actually looked at the Portsmouth's first few fixtures, though, how tough they are. So they've done well to get a point at Leeds. I know obviously there were 3-2 up at one point, but from what I watched, Leeds...
It was space of 30 seconds, okay?
Well, exactly, yeah. Well, yeah, okay. There were 30, it was still in stoppage time, though. But, like, they're right, though. Like, but Leeds, from what I saw, battered Pompey. So to come away from Ellen Road from it as a point is a very good point there, even despite the circumstances. And to get a draw against Luton, they basically were battling against two of the sides that are fancying to be at the top of the division. And I think they've got Borough, then Sunderland in their next two games. I think they've got West Brom and Sheffield United. I might be wrong on that. But no, they've got some very tough games. So steady start for Portsmouth. Luton will get better gradually as the season goes on, I think. But I'll be interested to see how Luton do really this season, because this is the first season I can remember in recent years where Luton will probably have some level of expectation on them, certainly compared to what they had before. So I'm going to be fascinated to see how they end up getting on. I do think Luton will be in the top six. I think they'll be fine. I think Rob Edwards is a good manager. And they've got the squad to do it. They've only really lost Ross Barkley, I believe, from the team that came down from the Premier League. Like major player anyway. So yeah, I think it's a good point for Luton. It's a decent point for both teams, basically.
Absolutely. Right, let's get on to the penultimate game. I don't want to talk about this, but I'm going to have to anyway. The game just was so dragged. I'm not going to lie, actually. I'm saying this as a Leeds fan. I did think we were going to be in this shit show from last season again. We thought, okay, we did get back to the Premier League. Fair enough. We know we were going to lose some key players, but we thought after we were so actually great to Spurs. When then Red Bull comes in with the state and it's what's got, we thought, okay, and we were told by our CEO Pragmatic we would dictate on the transfers. How can you dictate on the transfers? And we'll also say we'll be proactive because how can you dictate the transfer of players leaving who are on release who had release clauses in the contract where we were in the Premier League? I really don't get this one. And Annie, you cannot believe what's going on at Ellen Road. You maybe see it from the outside point of view, thinking it's a lot of false hope for me and the rest of the Leeds fans. It's just so much false hope every single time we get owners that just thought we are good for the club, then they're not.
Look, even with Somerville, Ruta, and who was the other one you got? Gray and Kamara.
Also Kamara is left as well. So
yeah,
Kamara as well.
Yeah. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4 players who were kind of mainstays last season in that team. I know you signed Joe Rodon on a permanent, which is really good business.
But it doesn't like the same Joe Rodon. Rodon's been in bad form probably since towards the end of last season. Even we brought him back, he hasn't been that same thing. And I thought Jaden Bogle looked well in pre-season, but you can't with pre-season. You don't know what's going to happen. But he looked good, and then somehow he's been average those two yesterday in the game against Spots when we gave a penalty away.
Yeah, I mean you'd know better than me, but Jaden Bogle was a really good Championship right back. He excelled at Derby with Max Lowe, wing back. So maybe it's just acclimatizing to kind of Daniel Farke's way of playing. I also want to ask you about Daniel Farke because I think he's great. I think he's right up there with some of the best Championship managers of all time because he's won 2 promotions. One of them was with the Norwich side, who had just sold James Maddison, their best player, and then signed a bunch of unknowns really to the Championship and went from mid-table to absolutely storming the division
when they weren't expected to either, were they? That year.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then got promoted again, and then he's been handed the keys to Leeds with. Last season, he got a bit unlucky. Like with 90 points, you normally would get second.
I know.
And then losing in the playoff final to Southampton, which is, Southampton have got quality. They can beat you. They can beat anyone in the Championship. So, yeah, I want to ask you about him. How are your thoughts on him at the moment? Because I know it's only been 2 league games, if you're discounting that Middlesbrough shambolic performance.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you, and I said it yesterday with Chris from Leicester LITD TV or I was doing the Saturday show. It's shambles. It's so shambles. If it's like we've got sold a lie again. We didn't think we're going to have more unrest on the last season. I think what Farke's weaknesses is, and this is what a lot of you don't realise, when Brendan got sold to Aston Villa at Norwich, he lost that speciality of replacing someone. He couldn't know what to do. I think he's in that same scenario now. We lost 3 of our key players, especially because with Rutter, his release clause was going to end after the Middlesbrough League Cup game. It was going to end until Brighton came back in with the third bit of matching the release clause. It should be announced tomorrow at latest. But if you're not being reactive, you knew those players were going to go. Why do you not react to get the players in? We've only signed 2 on permanent for £15 million. Joe Rothwell's on loan. He looked a little bit better, Joe Rothwell, than I think he's going to be decent. But when you question like Joe Peru and Patrick Bamford, Peru holds that ball so long and he doesn't have as a number 10, that's not good enough. And I think I worry about, is there any more players going to have release clauses? I feel like Nonto still has a release clause. I feel like Pascal Stroit has a release clause. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't, actually. Yeah. Doug, good to see you.
Hey, Doug. Hope you're doing well, mate.
How long did you give Farke? Doug, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't watch his press conference on Thursday, but I knew he was going to back Art Bard, and I knew he was talking about we deal with the things with our past. We know about the sins of the past, you fool. So why you keep bringing it up a lot of the times? We don't need to bring it up. We know if we paid for our budget mistakes, right? So we can accept that. But what the boss should have not done is be honest with us and not be silent with us. And the Leeds United Trust Supporters Trust came out Thursday, Friday with a statement. We need to what's going on with the ball. We need to speak with the question about the situation. The board came back to said, "Oh, we'll speak to you after the transfer window." That just shows you a lack of dialogue we have that there is between the board with Kinnear and Pragmathray, and also with the fans. It's the same situation we've been going for the last 20 plus years under Ridsdale, under Chelino, under Ken Bates, under GFF Capital, under Chelino. It's the same. And only that it's the same situation we've been for the past 20 years. If you don't explain to us the situation, we won't. Then there's gonna be a lot of unrest. I just don't know where we can see how we're going to get 4 to 5 players in 12 days' time. It's impossible because with the PSR and all that crap, we sold more than the 23 over championship clubs by £1 million. That just shows you. I'm thinking, how much we do spend because we can't spend that much because
What positions do you need, Carl?
we
I was
need
going to ask that myself. Yeah,
we need a centre midfield. We need 2 wingers. Pretty much.
And these are new players to start in the team, I presume.
Yes, absolutely. It's new players and a striker, and we need a left back because we still don't know because Junior Firpo, he's on his last year of his contract, and so but we do need a lot. I think the way we treated Liam Cooper of not giving him the message say thank you for your 10 years or so is a disgrace. He's still a free agent. He's still linked with us in some way. So none of us knows what's going on. It's a lot. We're gonna have the smallest squad depth. We're gonna have after it goes 19 players in total. And that means 19 players in total.
wow.
So that's why we need those bodies to come in to get up to at least 23 as well. And and I'm all going to come to this because me and Michael will be talking about this, and Doug's just brought up, will Jack Clark say, son was going, oh, that's going to be host. There was rumours a few weeks ago, I don't know if you saw the pictures of Ian Hatt's car outside Ellen Road.
I did see that, yes.
Yeah, we thought it all had to do with Jack Clark's situation. But when you and I have talked about this recently, that you talked about this in summer that was he going to be a Premier League player because that's what we thought you were going to get the money that you value wanted. It sounds like that we tried to get him back at Ellen Road, but it's going to cost us what, 25 million as you said it.
Right. Well, on the Jack Clark thing. I'm not going to lie, from my perspective, I would be very angry if we entertained selling the Leeds because in my own, and we'll get onto the Sunderland game in a bit, my opinion is we've got a squad that, especially with a good goal scorer up top, that for me, might sound arrogant, should be finishing in the playoffs. Trey Hume, Dennis Serkin, Dan Ballard, Luke O'Nien, Dan Neal, Joe Bellingham, Chris Rigg. Okay, granted, he's probably not going to start every game. Alan Brown's there. Jack Clark, if he stays. Patrick Roberts is starting to look more like himself. You get a good Anthony Patterson as well. You get a goal scorer in that team, and that's just a starting 11. You've got Niall Huggins, who when he's been not hampered with injuries, bless him, I really do like the look of him. Gialise is another one off the top of my head. Audil Aushish, I think, has shown flashes of promise for a squad player. So the point is, if we're entertaining selling to Leeds, we're strengthening Leeds massively while weakening our own prospects. If Leeds win the Premier League, don't get us wrong. I think I can understand from Clark's perspective why Leeds would be an appeal to him because I believe it's his hometown club. It's his
own club. He grew up from the youth, and we played.
Yeah, exactly. So right, but from Sunderland's point of view, without sounding too horrible, we've got to go sod Leeds. We need to be thinking about our own sort of area. But
you have to in that situation. You have to.
Exactly. Yeah. But of course, Leeds will want him back. If Leeds got Jack Clark back, then I think that would be as good a replacement for Somerville as they could get. The problem is that you're going to have to spend probably, I would imagine, what you sold Somerville for. This is why, for me, I felt from Leeds' point of view, I know it seems he wants Marseille, but come on, Johnny Rowe, Norwich to Leeds, really? Is that not a step up for the guy? look,
Listen, if he's going to France, that's the step of how he's going to get gauged because we can't watch him because
yeah, but
we league own rights. We don't even have league own rights because of what's going on in France with the French football side.
But this is the thing, right? Because from what I said earlier, Johnny Rose, apparent situation, he's in the last year of his contract. He's gone AWOL. That weakens Norwich's position in terms of what they'd be willing to have to sell.
I know, but we've not made an offer to him. We've been here rules. We made an offer, but we haven't made an offer to him.
Like if say for example, Jack Clark move for Jack Clark was off the table, and I'm not going to say it definitely is because like that, football can change. It's still 12 days left in the window.
Yeah.
My gut says I don't think he goes to Leeds just because I think we would want too much from what Leeds apparently,
I know,
seemingly, because I don't know, this is just from the outside looking in, seem to be able to afford. But again, you'll know better than me.
I listen. I agree as well. Listen, I would agree in the sense that because I think because we got our pants pulled down, all these players are gone, and I think we will be like, no, since you look weak in the negotiations, we want this kind of money, so we're not going to pay you. I think we might have to spend up to 40 million for what I've heard, and I think how can you spend 40 million, which we have to spend 25 on a
40 million, and you said 40 million across half a dozen players, didn't you?
Yeah.
So that it sounds to me like the loan market's going to be really, really important for you guys.
I know, and there's going to be clauses saying if they don't play most games by January, they're going to come back.
Don't get us wrong, right? I mean, let's play devil's advocate here, and again, you know more than me. On the game, I think in isolation, if it wasn't all of this crap that was going on, a point at West Brom, I think, is a good result. I think a point away at West Brom, I think, is in general considered a good result for any team in the division. The disappointment for you was that Pompey draw. That's a game that, with all due respect to Portsmouth, you don't have a God-given right to win, of course, but you need to win games at home. At Fratton Park, it's a little bit different, I think. Not massively, but a bit different. But at home, with the chances you missed as well, like you hit the woodwork 3 times and you ended up missing a great chance at the end. Look,
listen, Harrison is a divisive situation playing between our fans, which I.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah. Of course, it's going to be, and obviously, like ourselves, you've been through the mill as well, so you both know. And obviously, with Leeds and Sunderland, I consider the 2 biggest clubs of the division, and they're ones that are going to have high expectations. If I was looking,
especially when you're wearing the badge of both of those clubs and the shirt is so
absolutely
heavy. Yeah.
But here's what I would say to play devil's advocate, and I know you've lost Gray, I know you've lost Somerville, and I know you lost who's the other one, Reuter. Yeah. Well, or likely going to lose Reuter, I should say. I don't think that's done yet officially.
It's going to be done by tomorrow, Tuesday at the latest.
Okay, fair enough.
In terms of Green, it's just more his medical. So
right. So it looks like it's 90% done, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right, but if I was to look through your squad and tell me if these players I'm hyping them up too much or anything, because you'll know better. You've got Meslier, who was there last year. Firpo, I know he's in the last year of his deal.
Meslier is a bit of a marmite with the situation because
fair enough, right? Okay, just correct me at any point then. Strujek, I'm terrible at pronouncing names.
Strike. Yeah,
hey, I got it right the second time. Get in. Okay, so
I think there's been. I feel like there's going to be a Premier League club if we don't improve. I think there will be a Premier League club because I feel like he has a release clause in his deal as well. I think there is something going on there.
Who agreed these deals with all these release clauses? Okay then. So Firpo, Strike, Rodon. Bogle, I know Bogle gave away the penalty against Portsmouth, but I think Bogle should be a competent, more than competent fullback at this point. I know. And you only got was it £5 million you paid for him, I think?
Yeah.
So in terms of, because if you do have to close the gap in terms of finances, that's what you do. You sell Gray for 40 million, you replace him, someone who's not as good, but is more than good enough for top-end championship right back for 5 million. But then you've got Grev. I'm terrible pronouncing names.
No, Grev, yeah, you got it right. Yeah.
Ampadu, Janonto, Peru, Daniel James, and is it Matteo Joseph?
Matteo Joseph, yeah. But he's Matteo Joseph. He's quite young. He's still
young. I thought he was.
And there's been a lot of talks that he could be the difference. He was going to be the difference along with Ophelia, but because of that, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
with Peru, it's a question. It's questionable now because we need someone to replace Donkias Bamford. On a personal note, Bamford is a good is a good person. Off the field, what he's been doing, how he's been brought up, and we understand it. And he talked about things such as the race and what we went through. But as a player, you question he's not been that good since that promotion we got at in the first season of Premier League.
Do you think he's just past his best now for you?
Yes, absolutely. And we've been trying to get rid of him since last season. So there's an issue with that one. When you talk about this place, there's so much gaps in that one. Peru is not a number 9 striker; he's a number 10. But the way he holds the ball and his very passive is not the best. It's just not good enough. It slows it down. It slows things down when we need to be quick. Then the fans chatted yesterday, attack yesterday, which was the first time I ever heard that. And I thought to myself after the League Cup, it was like, why do we substitute 5 players in one go? That still doesn't. Yeah, it baffled me completely with that one.
I can imagine that. But the point I was going to make was I know that the caveat obviously is that because you've lost Ruta and let's say Ruta as an example in particular.
Ruta didn't score a lot of goals, but he was the best dribbler.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say was the likes of Ginonto and Daniel James, I still think are top-end championship footballers. And I think the problem I wonder is that with someone like Ginonto, I don't know how well he and Ruta linked up.
So they linked up. No, I think they linked up quite well. Ruta and Ginonto, they linked up quite well. And they were close. You know, some of them were very close because I haven't told this, but my sister's boyfriend, his sister's other half is a barber, and he does cut most of the Leeds players' haircuts, and he did most of that, and he's going to lose a lot of revenue now because
I like that. That's quite funny. No, but the point I was going to make was so Ginonto, while I rate is a very good player, but if he's lost that link with Ruta and lost a bit of one half of that partnership, then how much is he going to suffer through not having Ruta to play off? But this is where Daniel Farke earns his money there for me, because I do agree with Annie that I think Daniel Farke he's proven he can deliver under pressure in the Championship, because Norwich's second promotion, they were expected to go up, and he's managed to do it. But obviously the caveat to that is, and the counter argument is that Leeds, the expectation's bigger than Norwich, which is just how it is. I think
when you put that shirt, you have to earn. It's earning it. Can you handle the pressure, the shirt and the badge? Can you handle the fans on a weekly basis that you have to see going around on the streets of Leeds every single day?
Exactly, you've got a bigger fan base, bigger expectations. But the other side of it is, because I watched when you played Norwich in the playoffs last year, your atmosphere was relentless that night, and it can work the other way, where if you really represent the shirt well, Ellen Road can suffocate you. It can suffocate opposition teams. So I think a lot of it depends on, obviously, if you've got 40 million to spend, if your recruitment is good, I don't know how good your recruitment team is,
it's still
there's still question marks over it.
It's huge question marks because we had the same situation with the same people that was started last season. Because I think one of our director football was only in there for temporary, and Tafinti extended his contract, so no one knows what's probably like of let's really now push into it, because that's now the question mark. Because last year Conor Roberts didn't get a lot of game time when he came on loan from Burnley. Jed Spence went back to Spurs after his attitude was questioned. We didn't use most of our players, such as Charlie Cresswell, who's now gone to Toulouse. So there's been a lot of
turnover. Well, a lot of movement. Yeah. So this is my point. If you've got £40 million to spend across, what was it, 5-6 players? You said.
Yeah.
The way I would approach it personally, if it was me, is if you got maybe 2. Well, okay, this is so simplistic. I understand this, but say if you got, in theory, 4 £10 million players and 2 really good loans from the Premier League. You could, if you addressed it well enough in those positions, then obviously it's a matter of getting them to gel and for squad depth. But if you did that, I still think you'll be right up there, because I think you've still got unless you lose Ginonto, Peru, James, and
Peru is not bad. It's more those. It's like James, Anonto,
okay, right.
And we don't, like I said, we don't know how many clauses in that squad now.
Yeah, if there's a lot of release clauses in there, I think whoever authorised that needs to have a serious look at themselves or their position.
It was from the last ownership, right? So the Rota deal that was influenced by the 49ers, who actually wanted to get him on a permanent deal. Riley Zani didn't want wanted him on a loan deal with an obligation, with an option to buy if we stayed in the Premier League. So now we're in a bit of a mess of, we've only made a £5 million profit from Rota because he cost about £35 million. Yeah. And what I heard that Hoffenheim gets the selling clause about 4.6 million, probably 5 million euros. So someone's made a huge mess of that club, after that bat's pulled out so badly. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't sound a good state at the moment. I think from your perspective, I believe your next game is Sheffield Wednesday away on Friday night.
It is on Friday.
And I think that's going to be... I think Hillsborough actually is a pretty difficult place, actually. It depends on if Sheff Wed, how they respond to today's defeat at Sunderland. But
no, listen, they will be ready. They will be ready.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not a derby for crying out loud. They will be ready.
yeah, that's true actually. No, but okay, let me put it to you this way: if you got Sheffield Wednesday away, and then you've got Hull at home after that before the international break, the minimum you need to be getting there is 4 points for me, absolute minimum. I think a point at Sheffield Wednesday isn't disastrous if, and I stress this, if you beat Hull. But if you don't get at least one win in the next two before the international break, then the pressure is going to start ramping up, not just for Orion Farker, but across on your board as well.
It
So
will be.
it's a huge moment for you guys. But like, there is going to be a lot of things going on at behind the scenes at Leeds, I'm sure. But yeah, it's not good when you lose, like, because you can probably afford to lose maybe two of the players you had, but I didn't expect you to lose more than two. If I'm honest, I did think you would keep. I thought, hang on, who've you lost? Was it Gray, Ruta, and I've already lost the other one, Somerville. I did think that maybe Gray was the one you'd be most likely to keep, but it might have been. Was that one a case of Tottenham offered you as much money as you could get for him?
It was.
Okay.
And the rumours were the Gray family and the club have had a bit of a strained relationship, for what I've been hearing.
Okay, right.
And I think what Spurs, it was Spurs was figuring, but it was once an opportunity before that was the only way we could meet the PSR situation. And then and the wife I worry about, because his brother is still at the club as well, Harry. He's still in the youth. He's going to get to the first team by some point. There's a bit of a worry with that one as well. He comes good as his brother as well. Then if we're not back, yeah.
Okay, well, the thing I would do is to start wrapping up. It's a feel for poor Annie. He's been probably listening to us talking for like 15 minutes.
I think he's probably enjoyed it. So
if he's got, he can shut me up at any point if he wants. But like the one thing, how many wingers did you say you need?
Two.
So is this for one? Is for one for each side or two for one side?
Two for each side is the best of this. They can play both sides.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. So just a shout out, right? Let's say if you wanted to get two wingers. The two are, if you can't afford 25 for Clark, because that is probably a lot for one player if you've only got 40 million to spend across all positions. Here's what I would do. Maybe put bids in for likes of Morgan Whittaker and Johnny Rowe.
See, there's been a few. Do you know what? The situation with Morgan Whittaker, because a lot of people thinks, is he going to be good enough for that shirt? Yes, he's at Plymouth, but is he going to be good enough to be scoring the goals, to replace the goals at Somerville and assists? It's a bit of a debatable one. But for Rowe, it should have been like, we should have gone in hard, really hard.
Because sorry, Annie, I'll quickly say this, but if you put a £10 million bid in, example, for Rowe, with Norwich's situation, I think that gets accepted. I think there's a good chance that gets accepted. And Rowe has clearly got talent. He's performing for a club that's got bigger expectations in the Championship. For me, I am flabbergasted you're not going in for Rowe personally. Sorry, Annie, go on.
It's a relatively fair point on Whittaker, because when Pirro went to Leeds, I was going, God, this is a guy who's tearing apart teams whilst playing for a side in mid-table. He's going to double those. He's going to do much better at Leeds side. So I understand, playing for Leeds is very, very different to playing for Plymouth, and that's no disrespect to Argyle, who are very high functioning club themselves. But
sensible Plymouth fans would agree with you on that. To be fair,
it's just the expectation of playing for Leeds in the Championship as well. It's different when you're playing the Premier League, but playing in the Championship, it's the expectation of got to be up there, got to be producing on a consistent basis. So yeah, I completely agree with that. Another kind of player I would have chucked in there was Josh Sargent, who also plays for Norwich.
He was also linked earlier in the summer as well, and I thought, no, there's no chance that they were never going to do it, because he's still got a longer year more than
4 years on his contract. So that's going to be a very hard deal for you to do, I think.
Yeah.
I know MLS clubs were kind of in for him before their deadline, which was a couple of days ago. So you can definitely compete with kind of MLS clubs. So maybe it's.
I know.
So
if you're getting Rowe, can we compete against the league earned clubs like Marseille and Monaco? That's the question.
Yeah, that's a tough one, especially when you're in the Championship. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think last question. Do either of you think Jack Clark goes to Leeds?
Not to Leeds, no.
I'm going to be honest. If a miracle happens, yes, but if not, No, I don't think so. Not with the of the value you wanted. I know I saw that comment that you shared on the group chat about that fan. If it's a hard one. I don't think it could happen. I can't see it happening. It's just
No,
it's too beyond our value that we expected. So because we
and
sold him
yeah,
for 10 million, we brought him back on loan. I wish we did sell him for that money because look at what happened at Spurs for a bit, and now he's redeemed himself. And I worry about the same player like Ivan Paveda you got as well. But yeah, what if he turns to become a good player and you sell him for good profit? Because
you clearly haven't seen Sunderland's record with injured players. That's all I'll say to
that's
that
a
one.
fair point. I've
Yeah.
watched them until it dies. I've seen how bad it is.
Oh,
Anyway,
don't
so.
remind me of that, please. That's a reminder of dark times. The last thing I'll say is, because, like I've said, from my perspective, our board would face a massive backlash from fans.
It would. I know.
If we went to a club in the same division, that would not go down well with us, and I would be right there with it, because I'd be saying, well, that's not.
Yeah, I know you would.
Yeah, if you're going to a Premier League club, that's one thing. And if you were in the Premier League, then I'd say fair enough.
Yeah,
But,
I know.
We sold our top goal scorer to Middlesbrough, and I'm sat here absolutely not bothered in the slightest. So it's not that bad. It's not that
Yeah, I
bad.
suppose.
Yeah, but when it comes to
that was a player who fell out with Liam Manning, didn't he? So it's going to
yeah,
be
exactly.
And the fact that his stats were padded by penalties, but yeah.
Yeah, but when it comes to two of our biggest clubs, then you like no.
Yeah.
It's
It's going to be a fascinating 12 day. Look, I'm not going to say I don't think Jack Clark goes to Leeds. I don't think he does, but I do. But I'm not going to. I'm very 50-50 on whether he goes or not. It's going to be an interesting 12 days.
Yeah, it's going to be bloody interesting 12 days.
But it sounds like it's fun being a Leeds fan. So
trust me, it's you don't even try to. I think I questioned myself the other day thinking, do you know what? I wish I was, because I grew up in Huddersfield and most of the family I make a bit both. Well, one side of the family is Leeds and the other side is Huddersfield. I think to myself, do I just change? Do I just go to Huddersfield games when I go back home now and again, or do I just stick with Leeds? You just stick with the dark tie.
I will say this, mind. Anyone when there's a fan of, say, Newcastle, arrogant bastards, out of Newcastle or like Man United or whoever else, and they act like they have it tough, get out of the door. Because I'm sorry, like we all three of us, I bet you have seen what real hardship is. So like,
we have.
Let's get real. So yeah, I mean, your board's going to be massively under pressure the next 12 days, and rightly so, because it sounds to me like there's been a lot of things going on behind the scenes that shouldn't be as bad as what it is. And to some degree, I feel a little bit for Farker because of all of that that's going on. But at the same time, it's down to him, because I still think he's got good enough players to get a cohesive tune out of to get. Because I know your squad's weaker.
2 wins in 12 games since the last season. That's how.
Yeah, well, that is true. That is true. I mean, obviously, look, the games that cost you last year off the top of my head were like losing 4-0 to QPR, losing 1-0 to Blackburn, losing to
3-1 to Southampton as well. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. It's those type of games. 0-0 draw against us when we had nothing to play for. Like there's going to. I mean, and probably you start last season. I don't think you beat Chef Wed last year, did you? You think you drew?
No.
Oh, sorry, no, you beat them away. I'm lying.
We did beat them away, but
Rotherham away. There's an example of another one. Those are the type of games that cost you. So
yeah,
I do think your squad's weaker, but I would also caveat with I think the league's weaker than last year. You don't have an Ipswich this year. I think Burnley's probably the closest one at the moment that's like comparatively to like Leicester, Southampton, and Ipswich last year. Whereas the rest of it, I think it's a lot more open.
I mean, we're saying all this, but let's be honest. Come May, I'd be utterly astonished if Leeds aren't in the top 3. At least in the top 3, I'd be utterly astonished.
At bare minimum, top 6. Like
bare minimum top 6.
Worst level top 6. They should be in there.
If you're massively underperforming, you finish 6th. In my eyes, if you're massively underperforming, you finish 6th. You don't finish below 6th.
Like, I know.
I'm not like hyperboles or anything. I'm being dead serious. That squad finishes in the top 3. Like, even whether that's with Daniel Farker's help or without Daniel, in spite of Daniel Farker being there, it has to finish in the top 3.
I know. There's been talk. Listen, I give Farker to October. That's all I've given at the moment. If things change, if not, I feel like Budgie Ivor, the only manager I would want if that happened, that shit happens, is probably Liam Rosina than David Moyes, because there's been talking about David Moyes, with his tactics with boring. Yes, he can adapt, but we need something, because how Liam Rosina got treated at home.
That's triggered some dark memories for Michael.
Yeah, no comment on that.
I know.
His face just went
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah.
blank.
Hey,
that's insane.
blame Simon Jordan from Talksport because he's the one who actually, it was him and Jim that said that. I'm like, really?
Sorry, Carl. I think any credibility there left when you said Talksport.
I know. I'm like, when I listened to it, I thought, yeah, like,
Yeah.
really?
Well, look, I think I do agree with Annie. I think your squad, at very worst, even underperforming, should not be finishing outside the playoffs. If you finish below 6, that is one of the most biggest disgraces of all time. In
Daniel
the
Farker needs
League.
hanging.
Yeah, I agree with that. He still
you know
has
the
a
song.
squad.
You know the song Kaiser Chief. I picked right.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a riot, and regardless of what happens, there's going to be a riot, which I may or may not be attending. But here's the thing.
I like that. I may or may not be a part of this. Just
Part of it,
throw it out
yeah.
there for the caveat out there. But look, yeah, it's a big.
We
tough-
don't endorse that, by the way.
No,
No, we
of course.
don't.
saying.
I know it
Yeah, we
doesn't.
don't.
Just let's just be on the
Yeah.
clear side. But
Yeah.
I'm
Look,
doing it in my own house. It
There's
would
no
be
doubt
chaos.
that if you don't start getting here's last thing on Leeds. Then, do you think how big is the pressure to go up this year?
It's,
What is the
it's
consequences?
bloody huge.
Yeah,
It's
what is the consequences for you if you fail to get promoted this season?
It'll be a lot more players leaving, and which means the parachute page gets smaller and smaller, and
Yeah.
we'll lose a lot more players, and we don't know who's gonna be the next part coming in. And there's big questions that who can what do we do with the ownership, because there'll be questions of by treason if like I said there will be effigy of the CEO, the manager, the whole board, hanged completely. Which I don't want to, but it might happen because we've dealt with this for the last 20+ years after the financial shit that we been through from all the way down to League One. It cannot happen again.
God, you triggered me mentioning those 2 words, League One.
I know.
League One is great. You just get 99 points.
Oh yeah, you're just saying that because there's a trophy there named after your city or town.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, come on. I mean, if it's that great, why don't you just sell Scott Twine to Leeds? You can sell whoever else, all your assets to Leeds, and then you can just go down to League One, play Bristol Rovers.
I don't think they want to finish mid-table each year. If you want our assets, it costs you £1 billion. Sure.
Sure, why not?
I know. Fucking hell, man.
I think Michael really wants to talk about Sunderland.
Yes,
I'm happy to keep talking about it. Yeah, I was happy to wait till the end, but if you've got anything to say on Leeds, I'm happy to wait.
No, I am going to say for what Dub said earlier on, what to wait for Sunderland, and bloody hell, I don't know you watched the game, Michael. Take me through what were you thinking the whole 90 minutes?
Right. How PC do you want me to be? Because I tend to swear a lot.
Non-PC. Just anything you want, just say it out.
Okay, every time... This is weird because, hang on, when did we take the lead? It was like the first 10 minutes, I believe, or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Let me double check that. Okay, 11 minutes.
11 minutes.
Oh, did we score 2 goals in like 5 minutes? Oh, bloody hell, I forgot about that. Right, okay, let's just put it this way. I went from, Sheffield Wednesday are starting all right, to, get in! Fucking get in, we've scored. Right, keep calm, keep concentration. Yes, a striker scored, get in! The emotions were all over the place. I'll say this, right, obviously, I know Carl disagrees with me on this. I think Sunderland and Sheffield Wednesday have quite a good relationship at the minute because we both know the recent heartache of League One in the playoffs because there's less.
Yeah, but we went through it ourselves years ago with times as well. It took us three seasons to get back up, and actually, it was the last day of the season we got promoted by beating Bristol Rovers 2-1. So just So
it's not 4 years, so we outshit you there, I'm afraid. But here's
League One's great.
In this game, I did fancy us to win here because I do believe a lot of people underestimate how good our side is at this level.
Yeah.
But what I would say is I did fancy us to win, but certainly not by that scoreline because I feel despite today, and you two know how much I like him, Danny Roll, I really do rate as a manager. I think he will go to the very, very top. I think he's got some balls working with that nutcase Stefan Chansiri because we all know how much of an idiot he is.
I know.
So Chef Wed fans still deserve better at that. Chef Wed started the better of the two, not without doing too much, but they were probably shading the territory in the possession there. But obviously, possession for possession's sake doesn't mean as much. Then we score a goal from a set piece, which I still can't believe I'm saying because we were horrendous last season at set pieces. But it seems to be something Regis Labrise is working on. Finally, we're starting to be competent at set pieces. Dennis Serkin scores a really good header, but from Chef Wed's point of view, the defending is absolutely atrocious. The second's my favourite goal of the three, actually. Of the four, because Sheffield Wednesday tried to play out from the back. They give the ball away. I think it's Luke O'Nien intercepts the incoming pass.
Yeah.
And Eliza Mienda, who, again, is a young Spanish lad who we signed from Shao, I think the club's name is, a year ago. He finishes it so well. Like, he finishes it. I don't know if either of you have seen the goals from this game.
I have,
He finished it absolutely brilliantly. And it's funny because he had a chance last week at Cardiff, kind of a one-on-one, where he missed it. That was probably easier to score than the one he scored today, which was weird. But no, he took that goal really well. And you could tell just how much it was like weight had been lifted off his shoulders. And the crowd responded really, really well. I think from that point, Sheffield Wednesday crumbled. I think they really did, and I didn't expect that. I thought they would be a lot more. They had to show a lot of resilience to stay up last season because they were in the back seat for a lot of it. They had to play a lot of catch up, and every time they won, someone else around the bottom won, so they had to keep it on. I think some of our fans felt we would lose because of the way they beat us last season, but the circumstances couldn't be more different. At the end of last season, we were clearly on the beach. We were ready to just jack the season in, forget about it, and they had survival to play for. It was only going to go one way that day. Whereas this time, with a side that's functioning at the level it should be, we should be winning games like this, if I'm honest, at home. Because for me, my expectation is to finish in the playoffs. And I think because like I mentioned, if you look at the players I've listed before, now, whether we finish in the playoffs depends massively on whether Jack Clarke stays for me and also the striker situation, whether we can find someone up top who scores goals. There were suggestions Jack Clarke had signed a new deal, but to be honest, I'd be surprised if he has, but I'll be pleasantly surprised if he has. But even then, when we went 3-0 up, which for a goal that I initially thought was offside, but apparently a Sheffield Wednesday fan on social media told me it wasn't, so I need to look at it back. But that goal was a bit lucky, the one Luke O'Nien stabbed home from.
Yeah, he was offside.
He was not
Windass
offside.
played him on just.
Sorry,
Yeah,
he wasn't on. Oh, sorry, he was onside.
He was onside.
He was
Yeah, I heard Josh Windass played him on.
Yeah.
Once we went 3-0 up, I think Sheffield didn't know how to respond to it, and I think that suited us quite well because then it meant Sheffield had to come and try and really attack us. I mean, they were tracking us before anyway, but then it meant we could play around them, beat their attempts at a press, and then start to really kick on and actually start the second half. The fourth goal, but if the game wasn't dead by that point, then it was gone by that point. I want to mention, though, our young midfielder, Chris Rigg, who was linked with Newcastle, Man United, I believe, and even some big elite clubs abroad, does a lovely, if you see the through ball and the build-up to our fourth goal he does for Jack Clarke, it's absolutely superb. I don't know what on earth his mother and father have got for genetics, but they are not human. I am convinced of it. Because
even your centre mid is, I think, is the average age of 19.
I saw that, yeah.
I couldn't believe that. I'm thinking, what the,
Ben Neal's like, 22, 23, and he's our oldest player of the three, which is nuts. So, but like Dan Neal, Joe Bellingham, and Chris Rigg bossed the midfield, and Barry Bannon, we know, is not a bad player at this level. He's a very competent championship player. We made him look like a League Two player. That's not an exaggeration. The three of them ran the show completely.
Yeah.
Clarke tore them to shreds. Roberts, I thought, was much back to his standard he should be. And then Mienda gets a goal from close range, which is a tap-in, but it's a good striker's run to get towards that goal. It doesn't change the fact we still need another forward for me. We can't expect Mienda to play every game this season. But what I would say is if you get a good forward in, and particularly if you keep Jack Clarke, I think that, okay, it's not quite as big an underachievement as Leeds not finishing top six, but I do believe it would be a pretty big failure for the squad we've got, in my opinion, to not finish in the playoffs. Like I said before, Anthony Patterson, Dennis Sirkin, granted if you can keep him fit, Trey Hume, Dan Ballard, Luke O'Nien, Alan Brown to a degree, but I'm not going to judge him yet. It's one game. But, Chris Rigg's a really good talent. Dan Neal, Joe Bellingham, Jack Clarke, Patrick Roberts, and then see if you've got a new striker. That for me, I know you're going to get injuries, you're going to get suspension, so obviously we need to look at our squad depth. But for me, I think we've got, and even Andy said this with us after we drew against each other in April, that Sunderland's squad for me shouldn't have finished as low as 16th last season because I think it was horrendously mismanaged. Thanks, Michael Beale. And that was a big, big reason as to why we ended up doing it. Michael Beale's tenure damaged a lot of things behind the scenes, and I think we just didn't recover from that. So how they're coached will be a big thing. It's two games. I'm not getting too carried away yet. It's 2 games, but I would be, depending on what happens in the next 12 days, I'd be very disappointed not to finish in the playoffs personally, or at the very least be seriously challenging them.
Yeah. I know, absolutely, indeed.
But I will say, sorry, quickly, but I think Sheffield Wednesday will be more than fine, by the way. I'd be astonished. If Danny Rule stays there the whole year, I'd be astonished if they're anywhere near the bottom of the division or in the relegation battle.
No, I think so as well. I think he'll be there as well.
I think they'll be top half still with him. I think today's just kind of a freak, really.
Yeah, absolutely as well. Well, let's finish off with the championship table. Burnley and Sunderland and Watford are still the only 200 teams with 100% record. Swansea moves up to 7th, just above Oxford, and Sheffield Wednesday have dropped down to 9th. Obviously, getting their first win, they're just behind them on the same goal difference. At the bottom table, still no points for Millwall, Preston or Cardiff, but Luton and Plymouth Argyle Norwich get their first points along as well as Queens Park Rangers as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much as always. Thank you for joining me. I know
Yeah, thank
you
you
guys
very much.
joined last week Tuesday because we had a lot of games played over the 4 days. But we are hopefully we're going to be back doing Sundays a lot more often. There's not going to be no changes into the TV fixtures. Hopefully not. But I
It's
appreciate
this guy we're talking about, Mind.
yeah, I know, and I'm glad you joined me as well. So I appreciate that, Jebja. Thank you very much. Well, that's the end of the show. But before you go, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell on our channel. We're trying to grow our content on here as well. I will be back on Tuesday to do a full roundup of the Premier League and the League Cup, Scottish League Cup, along with Leagues 1 and 2, and talk about some European leagues as well. But I'm also back on with most of these guys next Sunday at 8 o'clock. But I'm out next weekend. But next Saturday, I'm back on with the Saturday show at 11 o'clock with Douglas would be back on the scene after he was off yesterday. So, gentlemen, thank you as always. Appreciate it. Let's hopefully we'll do this again next week since I've taken over. And hopefully if we get Ant on here next week if Coventry loses. So that's the target we need to do as well. So
Let's hope Coventry do lose.
well, exactly. Yeah.
Giving you a hint as to who they're playing.
Hint, hint, not nudge, nudge, and all that.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Absolutely. No, gentlemen, thank you as always. That's it for now. We'll see you guys at the same time next week. Take it for now. Bye-bye.